Hello and welcome. I'm Paula James at Art of Moving Well, and I'm here today with Dr. Ginny Trierweiler of Slender for Good. Ginny, tell us a little bit about who you are, where you are, what's going on.
Okay, yeah, I am helping primarily women over 50 and 60 who are smart and they think they've figured out how to eat healthy, but they're not getting the results they want, at least not anymore. And it's a big passion for me because it was part of my story is I thought I had it all figured out. Everyone should do what I do. And then I got into my 40s and things really started falling apart, both for my physical health and as far as gaining weight little by little by little and just totally changing size and shape. And it was very upsetting.
Let's just pause there because I think that's something that doesn't get touched on enough, right? So younger coaches or experts or whatever might say, "Oh, I have this all figured out." But yeah, well, once
Maybe.
once menopause kicks in, the rules changed. Have you figured it out for that population as
Right,
well? And
right,
like you're saying, you had it all figured out for you, and I did too. When I was younger, the things that I was doing worked, and they're not working anymore.
right.
So, before we go into depth on that though, just where give people a little sense of where in the world are you and
Yeah.
how can they work with you.
Yeah, well, I live in Oaxaca, Mexico. I made a big change as I was approaching 60. I wanted to live somewhere where I would be protecting my mental functioning as much as possible. And so having to speak a second language and function in another culture is the way I chose to really protect. I didn't want to take up bridge. My mom took up bridge as she got older. Like,
That's so interesting to think about, giving yourself the daily challenge of negotiating a foreign language and culture as one way to keep yourself mentally sharp as you age. So
yeah, it's interesting, right?
super. And way to walk your talk on that, moving your whole house.
Right, I know. Well, I'm very evidence-based. This is part of my training as a psychologist is let's look at not what somebody's promoting, but what's actually known to work. And that's what I finally researched when it came to eating and health and weight loss too is all right, all this popular media stuff is leading us to terrible results. Like we might lose weight at first and then just gain it all back. I just got really frustrated with that. I don't want to just gain more and more weight over time, lose weight temporarily and gain it back. So what actually works? And once I started finding the truth about what works, it started working. So same thing with keeping ourselves mentally sharp. Learning and using a second language is a way to keep yourself mentally sharp. Taking a different route to work, all those kinds of things, right? So having to live in a different country, a different culture, and use a different language was my chosen approach.
Wow, that's well, courageous of you, giving yourself an extra challenge at a time when life can become challenging anyway. And I heard you say too there was another reason for why you chose that part of Mexico specifically.
Uh-huh. Yeah, well, I discovered that eating fresh, real, whole food is really, really important for our health, and that was one of the big first fundamentals that I learned as I studied the research. And so I was looking for a place where I could definitely get fresh produce, for example. And if you live near a beach, near an ocean, it's less likely that you're able to get fresh vegetables. They don't grow well in those environments.
The soil.
Yeah, so where I live is in the mountains. So it's also like Denver in a way as far as being arid, which is what I was kind of looking for too.
Great. Okay, so here we have you as very much a lead by example, make courageous choices and actually make choices consistent with your priorities kind of person. I love
Yes.
that about you.
Yeah.
Uh, and then you just have such a compelling story. Tell us a little bit about what got you started researching weight and nutrition in the first place.
Yeah. Well, like I say, up until my 40s and when I got into perimenopause, I just could eat whatever and drink whatever. And I felt like I was doing pretty well. And if I gained weight, I would just eat less, exercise more, and it would come off, it seemed like. But then that didn't work anymore once I got into menopause. and I just started gaining. I ended up 60 pounds overweight in spite of reading and trying and dieting and going to Weight Watchers and all these different things. It just over time was getting worse and worse. And I had all these symptoms of like hot flashes and brain fog and a lot of pain and inflammation, which is how I found you. It's like, I need help with this pain and inflammation, right? And all these things, once I changed my eating in the way that the evidence told me to change, all these things disappeared. All the medications I was on, I was able to go off of. After, some of them I'd been taking for 35 years. Right.
Wow.
My insomnia corrected, so I sleep really well. It's like my whole life opened up again in such a more youthful way. I really had no idea changing our eating could change things that much. And it's dramatically different in a way, but it's really not difficult. It's actually easier than the way we tend to eat in the world because you feel so much more energy and so much more, I say, aliveness. I just feel more alive and well. It's so worthwhile.
Hey, well, I've been on your program since the beginning of May,
Mhm.
and I'm down 10 pounds,
Yay.
and I'm not counting calories.
Yes,
I am doing some measuring, but it's mostly measuring in the way of making sure I'm getting enough of the things
exactly.
good
Yeah.
for me. So one thing I found when I started on your program is that my impulse to snack previously really was rooted in I was not eating enough fats. And
Oh, yeah.
now
Uh-huh.
what I do is I measure out a daily portion of fat at the beginning of the day, and every time I'm
Mm.
cooking, I put a little bit of that in, and then that needs to be gone by the end of the day. And as long
Yeah.
as I'm eating enough fat, along with the rest of what's in the program, I'm not just having a stick of butter for lunch, but as long as I'm getting
It's
enough
not the
fat,
keto plan by any means.
yeah, as long as I'm getting enough fat in the meals during the day, I'm not hungry in between. And so what I would just like to put out is that Ginny's program is not you do have to have the willpower of paying attention to understand the program and implement it, but it's not the kind of program that you have to willpower yourself not to eat that thing that you so want because you're starving but you can't eat yet. It's you're getting enough of the things that actually nourish you so that you're actually not consumed with cravings for snacks or some of the high sugar, high calorie things that can make you really go off the rails. So I find the meals are satisfying, and then I'm able to not think about food and pay attention to other things
I
during my
know.
day. And then I have my
Yeah.
next satisfying meal. So it's not, for those of you that have tried other diet programs, which is probably everybody, it's not that.
It's not
It's a
that.
different structured protocol that is effective and and doesn't have you fighting. You're not going to be in conflict with yourself in a new way.
That's so good. People are so reluctant to get started because they're afraid it's going to cause suffering. I'm going to be in pain. I'm going to be hungry. I'm going to be suffering and fighting with myself. No, those are the wrong approaches. You really
Yeah.
need a guide to show you the right approach. And then it isn't about suffering at all. It's about abundance, about eating a lot of nutritious foods. Discovering what that means is a little bit of a process because the world is lying to us all the time. Our environment is lying all the time about what's nutritious. So that was a bit of work for me, but I'm able to save people years of study, right?
I just want to jump in here too and say that was really eye-opening for me as part of the series of classes that you did last spring. It is that if it's not that you can't figure this out on your own.
Yeah.
However, you're up against $1 billion industry that is marketing misleading,
Yes.
sometimes straight up non-factual things to try
Right.
to coax you into buying their products. And so what Ginny has done is, with her scientific training, go through the scientific literature to look at what controlled studies actually show works and doesn't work. So it's not you looking at labels in the
Right.
supermarket or you reading random things on the internet, which are probably largely promotion pieces. but she's actually done the heavy lifting of sorting through the scientific papers that I don't want to take a look at. And then she's put it into an easy to follow set of guidelines, and then provides some community and coaching support to help you figure out how to make it work for you, and to help you feel like you're in good company as you go through that process of adjusting.
Yeah, and people tell me all the time, it's easier than I thought, it's simple, it makes sense, and I thoroughly enjoy it. And it's like you get so much energy back in your life. Whatever energy you have to put out to learn this doesn't turn out to be heavy or difficult or miserable at all.
No, there's a little bit of a learning curve in the beginning, and then I just find it very simple. It's like,
Yeah,
well, no, I don't eat that at this meal,
right.
or no, that's not. And yes, these things are on the shopping list, and they're items that I consider cooking with this week.
Yes. Yeah, it's so interesting. I just was in the US and going through the aisles and seeing, gee, 80 to 90% of the stuff in there is not really good for our body, but it all has packaging that says it is. And just getting our nutritional wisdom back is what I'm looking for. I'm really passionate about this. That's why I do this masterclass on a regular basis. Really, it's 2 hours to help people see, here's why dieting is a terrible idea and is just going to make things worse. And really to shift your mindset about what do I need to do then to be as healthy as possible for as long as possible, and to get slender for good, right? Never have
Right.
to diet again.
I love that name because it's got the both meanings, right? Slender for good, and then the weight doesn't come right back as
Yeah.
soon as it goes off and comes back. It's not that. And also for all the other good benefits that go along with eating in a way that aligns with your body. It's not just about the losing weight. It's also, I found recently, I my own personal journey was that I had an imbalance in the histamines I was taking, and my hair was falling out like crazy. And so getting that rebalanced means that, that's another problem that now I don't have anymore. And that just was learning what I need to include in my diet and what I need to minimize or stay away from. And so there's that, like Ginny said earlier, that she had and that I think that maybe helps you be courageous enough to move to Mexico, is if you were able to get off medications that you have been on, you can see yourself trending healthier, and then you can take on a new challenge.
Even having to drive for days and days and days to get here, I wouldn't have been able to do before I changed my eating because I didn't feel well enough to be in the car that long.
So I just find that so encouraging and hopeful, right? So if some of you are thinking about aging as a steady decline and then you fall off the cliff, what Ginny has actually done through making some changes in her eating is to change a decline into a steady improvement.
I feel better in my 60s than I felt in my 40s and my 50s. And I want that to continue. That's worth a little bit of effort to me, eating differently from other people. Yeah. It might not be if I didn't enjoy it, but it's thoroughly enjoyable.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Paula.
Okay, so the masterclass is next Wednesday, September 20th, and people can go to your website, slenderforgood.com, and we'll put that link in the show notes, the comments, the post, whatever. It's slenderforgood.com, and there is a sign in button, and that will get you signed up for the masterclass. And I'll be greeting you at that one. So Ginny and I will be, she'll be teaching. I'll just be greeting and managing the chat. But we'll both be there next Wednesday, September 20th.
Do you think it's worth people taking the 2 hours to attend? I mean, I feel like it took me so long to figure out these answers and so long to put them together. I feel like it's really worthwhile. I hear it from people all the time.
You know what? I attended last spring when you did it as a 5-day event, and I attended live and I got value. But I also watched those recordings again, and I got more value out of watching the recordings because I was able to do it at a time of day when I wasn't rushing from one thing to the other. I wasn't distracted. So I was able to rewatch them when I was more able to be settled and focused. And also just to hear the information, which is really impressive for this.
Powerful, right?
Yeah, so that it really kind of settled in and took root a little better.
Yeah. I've heard that from people many times too. Watching it several times was helpful. Yeah.
All
It's
right, so get signed
life
up.
changing. Yeah.
And there may or may not be a recording, but if there is a recording and you're not signed up, you won't get that either. So,
Right.
so get signed up, and really hope that you'll join us on September 20th. It really, Ginny has pulled together a program that is, it's very doable and it's effective. And so I would love for you all to hear about that. It's great for people who are looking to slim down a little bit more. But you also had a client who really didn't have much weight to lose, and she found that it just gave her peace of mind. It improved quality of life.
A
So
lot.
if you're feeling that maybe there's something a little disordered in your eating habits, your relationship with food, this would, even if you don't have weight to lose, this might be also a good investment of your time.
Good point. It's eating and drinking. More than half of my clients find it's drinking as well, and it was for me.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Great. Dr. Ginny, anything else that you'd like to say here before we wrap up?
Just, I think it will surprise you how easy and natural it can be to eat in a really healthful way, and how different it is from what we're doing these days. It's powerful.
Great. And I just encourage everyone, yes, you can make a research project out of this and spend years of your life doing that, or you can get a little expert guidance from somebody who has done that part, and then you can just get started right away experiencing the benefits. So I encourage you to come to the masterclass and consider whether or not this program is right for you at this time.
Thank you, Paula.
You're so welcome. Good to speak with you.
Same here.